The morning the trouble began, the sun had barely crested over Harborview Estates, sending gold streaks across the cul-de-sac where I lived. I'd just finished backing my new luxury boat, the Mariner's Crest, into my driveway. It gleamed with fresh polish, the kind of shine that made grown men pause and reassess their life choices. I stood there admiring it, thinking about the weekend trip I planned with my brother, when I heard it. The sharp click of heels marching with purpose. Whenever you hear that sound in a nice neighborhood like ours, one of two things is happening. 1. Someone's late for brunch, or 2. Karen from the HOA has arrived to ruin a perfectly peaceful morning. Of course, it was option 2. Mr. Dalton. She barked, as though I were a teenager caught sneaking in after curfew. You can't park that here. I turned, plastering on my most polite smile. Karen was dressed in her usual morning armor, pressed blouse, clipboard tucked under her arm, and sunglasses that made her look like she was auditioning for a spy movie, if spies spent their days enforcing trash can placement and grass height regulations. Good morning to you too, Karen, I said. Beautiful day, isn't it? She ignored that. This boat violates HOA Code 4B, subsection 12. No recreational watercraft of excessive size may be stored in driveways. You'll need to remove it immediately. Her voice had that clipped, authoritative tone of someone who loved rules not because they made sense, but because they gave her a sense of purpose. I glanced around the neighborhood. It wasn't even 8 a.m., and already blinds were cracking open as neighbors peeked out, probably hoping for entertainment. I gave her a calm nod. I appreciate your concern. But I'll only have it here for a few hours while I finish some paperwork. She narrowed her eyes suspiciously. A few hours is still in violation. Of course it was. Karen approached the boat, pacing around it like it was a suspicious vehicle left at a crime scene. This thing is enormous. Is that a built-in grill? And a sun deck? Why would you even need something like this? I own a marina, I said casually. Boats are kind of my thing. She snorted, waving away the answer as if I'd said I owned a spaceship. Well, whether you own a marina or a lemonade stand, the HOA rules apply to everyone equally. That was rich, considering Karen had once parked her nephew's RV in her driveway for 3 days because he was visiting. The board conveniently overlooked that one. Karen, I said gently, I don't want any trouble. I'll be moving it soon. She didn't hear a word. She pulled out her phone, held it in the air dramatically, and said, You know what? I'm calling the authorities. This is a major violation. The authorities. Over a boat. In my own driveway. Karen, that's not necessary. But Shed already tapped the screen. Yes, hello? I'd like to report an illegally parked boat, she said with the self-righteous energy of someone reporting an international fugitive. Yes, illegally. It's blocking the sidewalk. Well, it's near the sidewalk. Yes, I feel unsafe. I blinked. Unsafe? It was a boat, not a rabid animal. When she hung up, she looked smug, as though Shed just delivered a crushing victory for the safety of humanity. They'll be here shortly, she informed me. You'll learn you can't just buy expensive toys and ignore community rules. I took a deep breath. Losing my temper would only encourage her. Instead, I said, you could have talked to me. I did, she snapped. You ignored the rules. Before I could respond, I heard sirens in the distance. Sirens. Not just a quiet patrol car, but a full near-emergency approach. My stomach dropped, not in fear, but in disbelief. 2 police cars rolled into the cul-de-sac, lights flashing like they were responding to an armed standoff. Officers Martinez and Hill stepped out, looking mildly confused. Officer Martinez approached me first. Morning, he said. Got a call about an emergency? Karen rushed forward before I could speak. Yes, officers. This man parked a massive boat in the driveway, and it's creating a dangerous obstruction. It's a violation of our HOA bylaws. Officer Hill stared at the boat, then at me. Sir. Is this your boat? Yes, officer. And it's parked in your driveway? Yes, officer. He nodded slowly, as though piecing together a puzzle with only two pieces. Okay. So what exactly is the emergency? Karen was incredulous. The emergency is the violation. This community has standards. Officer Martinez sighed. Ma'am, this isn't a police matter. Karen spluttered. But you have to make him move it. Officer Hill looked apologetic but firm. We're not in the business of enforcing HOA rules. She stomped her foot. I demand you cite him. Ma'am, Officer Martinez said, the only thing I'm writing today is a note in our log saying we were called out here. And found no crime. Karen's face flushed bright red. I could have gloated. Instead, I just smiled politely. Because she had no idea. No idea who I really was. Or that the marina I owned wasn't just some small dock, but the very one our entire HOA received special access and privileges from. And she definitely didn't know what was coming next. For the rest of the morning, the neighborhood buzzed with the kind of low-volume gossip that spreads faster than wildfire. Curtains fluttered. Dogs were suddenly taken on extra walks. People lingered at their mailboxes longer than necessary. Everyone wanted to know why Karen had brought 2 police cars screaming into the cul-de-sac at dawn. By noon, the HOA group chat, normally reserved for passive-aggressive reminders about recycling bins, was a circus. Someone had already uploaded a picture of me leaning on my boat while Officers Hill and Martinez tried to reason with a fuming Karen. The comments ranged from, "Did she really call 911 over a boat? She needs a hobby. Honestly, I kind of like the boat." Karen was not amused. She responded with a 12-paragraph essay about respecting community ordinances, ending with, "This is a safety issue. Children use that sidewalk." Mind you, the boat wasn't touching the sidewalk. I ignored the drama. I had bigger plans. I needed to finalize the paperwork for my marina expansion, a project that had taken years of negotiation, permits, and dealing with the city. The new docks were scheduled to open in a week, and once they did, the whole town would benefit. Including, ironically, the Harborview Estates HOA. They had begged me for years to grant residents discounted slips, kayak rentals, and storage options. And I had agreed, not because I liked them, but because I loved the community. I wanted people to enjoy the lake the way I had growing up. But if Karen kept this up, well, that goodwill was starting to wobble. I had just finished an online meeting when a sharp knock echoed through my house. 3 knocks. Firm. Official. Perfectly irritated. I didn't have to guess who it was. When I opened the door, Karen stood there with her clipboard clutched like a shield. Behind her were 2 HOA board members, Greg, who liked to pretend he had authority, and Linda, who genuinely didn't want to be there. "Mr. Dalton," Karen said without greeting, "we need to speak with you regarding this morning's event." "Sure," I said, stepping onto the porch. "Would you like some water? Lemonade?" "No," she snapped. "This is a formal notice." Greg awkwardly cleared his throat. We're issuing a violation for improper vehicle storage. And," Karen added sharply, "for creating a disruption in the community." I raised an eyebrow. Creating a disruption? I wasn't the one who called 911. Karen's nostrils flared. "You provoked the situation by refusing to comply." Before I could respond, Linda stepped forward, her voice gentle. "We already discussed this, Karen. The police confirmed there was no obstruction. And the boat is only temporary. Karen shot her a glare so intense it could have cracked concrete. Linda instantly shrank back. "It doesn't matter what the officers think," Karen said. "The HOA has standards." "Standards," I repeated. "Not rules written out of spite?" Her eyes narrowed. "Is that what you think of us?" "I think," I said carefully, "that this entire issue could have been resolved with a calm conversation." "A calm conversation?" she said, laughing sharply. "You brought a massive yacht into a family neighborhood." "It's 30 feet, I corrected. "Hardly a yacht." She waved dismissively, as if size didn't matter when she was offended. "Regardless, it's against regulations. And now you're facing fines." I leaned against the doorframe and crossed my arms. "Karen. Are you sure you want to go down this road?" Her lips curled. "Are you threatening me?" "No," I said calmly. "I'm giving you a chance to take a breath and think about what you're doing. Because once we escalate this, the consequences won't be what you expect." Greg shifted nervously. Linda looked like she wanted to melt into a puddle and disappear. Karen stepped closer, pointing her pen at my chest. "I don't care who you are or what toys you have. In this neighborhood, I make sure people follow the rules." It was almost impressive, her confidence, her conviction that she was the hero of this story. "All right," I said quietly. "If that's how you want it." Her smile returned, victorious and condescending. "Good. Expect an email from the board tonight." They turned to leave, but as they walked down my driveway, I spoke again. "Oh, Karen?" She stopped, pivoting with an exaggerated sigh. "What now? You might want to check your email too." "For what?" "For a meeting invitation." She laughed. "I won't be attending any meeting you organize." "You will," I said, "because it's mandatory." Her eyebrows shot up. "Mandatory? For what?" "For the Harborview Estates Marina access renewal." Now I had her full attention. "That agreement is up this month, isn't it?" Greg murmured. I nodded. "Yes. And as the owner of the marina, I have some decisions to make." Karen's face shifted, from smugness to confusion, then to dawning horror. You own that marina?" she asked, voice cracking. "The whole thing," I said. "And the new expansion?" "That too." Silence. Greg blinked. Linda's jaw dropped faintly. Karen paled. "So," I continued, "when the meeting invitation arrives, make sure you read it carefully. Because a lot is about to change." Karen's composure shattered just enough for me to see the panic simmering underneath. And that was the moment I realized. She wasn't done. Not even close. The HOA's emergency meeting, called solely because of me, was scheduled for the following evening at the community clubhouse. Normally, these meetings were dull affairs where people argued over lawn edges and whether Halloween decorations could stay up past November 1st. But this time? Oh, this time they came out in droves. More than 30 residents filled the room, murmuring with anticipation. Some were curious. Some were annoyed. And some had brought popcorn, literally, because nobody wanted to miss whatever spectacle Karen had planned. I arrived a few minutes early, intentionally calm. Karen, already seated at the front table like a queen on a throne, watched me enter with narrowed eyes. Several board members sat alongside her, Greg, looking stressed, Linda, looking exhausted, and two others who appeared to be there only to avoid Karen's wrath. "You're late," Karen said loudly, even though I wasn't. "Meeting starts in 5 minutes," I replied. "I'm early." She pursed her lips. "Please take a seat. We have a lot to discuss." Oh, I was sure we did. I sat in the second row. A few neighbors nodded at me with sympathetic expressions, a stark contrast to the glances Karen kept giving me, like she hoped I'd spontaneously combust. The clock hit 6. Greg cleared his throat. I call this meeting to order. We are here to discuss the, Marina Access Agreement renewal and recent events. Everyone's eyes drifted toward me. Then toward Karen. And back again. Karen stood abruptly, grabbing the microphone as if afraid someone else might take it. For years, she began, this neighborhood has enjoyed access to the local marina at a discounted rate. Unfortunately, there has been an issue. I leaned back, waiting. She continued, our community's rules have been blatantly disregarded. A boat, an excessively large one, was parked in violation of HOA regulations. When addressed, the homeowner refused to comply. He displayed hostility toward authority and created a disturbance that required police intervention. A wave of whispers spread through the audience. I didn't react. Let her dig the hole deeper. And now, Karen said, her voice rising theatrically, he is attempting to threaten us by claiming he will revoke access to the marina. This is extortion. Pure intimidation. The room gasped. I chuckled under my breath. Extortion. She really was going all in. Greg turned toward me apologetically. Mr. Dalton. Would you like to respond? I stood, folding my hands behind my back. Thank you. And yes, I'd love to clarify. Karen crossed her arms. I didn't threaten anyone, I began. I simply stated that the Marina Access Agreement is up for renewal. That's a normal process that happens every few years. Someone from the crowd nodded. It's true. We get emails about it. But, I continued, what has changed is the expansion. I've personally invested in new docks, new paddleboard rentals, and a full-service section dedicated for residents. Which you plan to take away. Karen interrupted, pointing at me dramatically. I sighed. Karen, please stop twisting things. The board asked me years ago to offer residents special access. I agreed. Happily. Murmurs. Heads nodding. But when someone calls 911 on me for parking my own boat temporarily. That was a safety issue. She barked. And then issues fines that aren't even valid, I continued, ignoring her outburst, it makes me rethink how cooperative I want to be with certain people. Someone in the back whispered loudly, she's finally pushed the wrong guy. I continued, calm and steady. I love this community. I've lived here 8 years. I've donated to our holiday events, sponsored our summer barbecue, and given dozens of neighbors discounted storage for their kayaks. Several people nodded more enthusiastically. But I won't be bullied, I finished. And I won't allow the HOA to misuse power. The room broke into whispers again, not angry, but thoughtful. Karen slammed her hand onto the table. This is exactly what I mean. He's manipulating all of you. He thinks his money and his boat and his marina make him better than us. She stood and pointed at me, shaking with emotion. He should be fined. Multiple times. And if he doesn't pay, he should be removed from the community. The room fell silent. Greg stared at her as if she'd suddenly sprouted horns. Linda whispered, Karen. What are you doing? She didn't hear her. Rage had taken the wheel. I'm protecting this neighborhood. I raised an eyebrow. By abusing your authority? Her face reddened. This is my community. I run this HOA. And if you... Karen, I interrupted quietly, you don't run anything. A ripple of shock spread across the room. I continued, HOAs function through the board. Not one person. And definitely not through personal vendettas. She opened her mouth, but I held up a hand. And as for the emergency with my boat? The police report clearly states no violation, no obstruction, and no disturbance, aside from the 911 call that you made. A few neighbors groaned. Someone muttered, "We're paying dues for this?" Karen's eyes darted around, panicked. The control she'd always relied on was slipping through her fingers. You can't turn them against me," she said, her voice trembling with anger. "They know him, right?" But judging by the crowd's shifting expressions, she wasn't winning this battle. Not even close. Greg slowly stood. "Karen. We need to vote on your actions tonight." "What?" she snapped. "Why?" "Because," he said, sliding his glasses up his nose, leveling false violations, misusing police resources, and threatening residents, is grounds for disciplinary action. The room erupted in chatter. Karen stared at him, stunned. "This isn't over," she whispered to me, venomous. "I'm not done with you." I met her glare head on. "I figured," I replied. "But after tonight, the board may be." Because war had officially begun. And Karen had no idea how much she'd underestimated me. The next 48 hours felt like a calm before a storm, except everyone knew the storm's name was Karen. By the time the board scheduled the disciplinary hearing, half the neighborhood had already taken sides. And by taken sides, I mean 90% had quietly migrated to my side while pretending to stay neutral. No one wanted to confront Karen directly, they just wanted her reign of clipboard tyranny to end. The clubhouse was packed again the following evening. For a woman who claimed she hated drama, Karen walked into that room like a celebrity entering court, chin high, sunglasses on indoors, lips pressed in dramatic martyrdom. I arrived early, not to make a statement but because I knew the board would need clarity. Greg and Linda sat at the front table, along with the two quieter board members. They all looked exhausted. Linda managed a tired smile at me. "Thanks for being here. This is a lot." "I know," I said. "But today clears the air." She nodded, grateful. 6 o'clock hit, and Greg officially opened the hearing. "We are here to address concerns regarding the conduct of Board President Karen Delmont related to misuse of authority, false reporting, and harassment of a resident." Karen stood before he even finished the sentence. "This is ridiculous," she declared. "The only thing I'm guilty of is enforcing rules everyone else is too scared to enforce." Greg sighed. "Karen, please sit. You'll have your turn." She didn't sit. She folded her arms and planted her feet like a protester being dragged away from a tree. "I am the president. I will speak when I choose." A few neighbors exchanged awkward looks. Others rolled their eyes. Greg pinched the bridge of his nose. "Very well. But please keep your statements relevant." Karen inhaled dramatically, then launched into her monologue. "This community has thrived under my guidance. The lawns are pristine. The noise levels are controlled. Property values are stable. And yet," she pointed at me, "one man dares to undermine everything we've built." I stayed quiet. He brought a boat, an enormous, intrusive, dangerous boat, into our peaceful cul-de-sac. I addressed it. He refused compliance. He disrespected the chain of authority. And now he threatens to punish this entire neighborhood because he didn't get his way. Linda spoke timidly. "Karen. No one is being punished. The marina agreement just needs renegotiation." Karen spun toward her. "Of course you would say that. You've always been too weak to take a stand." Gasps rippled through the room. Linda's eyes widened, hurt. That was the moment everything shifted. Greg stood, anger tightening his jaw. "That's enough, Karen. Sit down." Karen whirled toward him. "You're turning on me too? I'm holding you accountable." "No," she snapped, "you're conspiring with him." She jabbed her finger toward me again. You're all terrified of him because he owns that marina, and you think he'll take away everything if you don't side with him. Now the room stirred with frustration. No one is terrified of me, I finally said. Karen barked a laugh. You're a bully with a boat. I raised an eyebrow. Karen, the police report showed no obstruction. The officers confirmed no violation. Your 911 call was classified as a misuse of emergency services. And then you tried to find me anyway. It was an emergency. She insisted. Someone in the back yelled, over a boat? Another voice added, we can't keep pretending this behavior is normal. Greg banged the gavel. Order, please. But the crowd wasn't angry at him. Their frustration was aimed squarely at Karen. Neighbors who had stayed silent for months were finally speaking up. Karen wrote me up for leaving my trash can out for 20 minutes. She tried to fine me for having Christmas lights past New Year's. She told my daughter her chalk drawings were vandalism. She threatened to shut down my backyard barbecue. One by one, grievances poured out, long pent-up irritations coming loose now that someone had cracked the dam. Karen backed up a step, eyes darting as the room turned on her. This is mutiny. She shrieked. I'm the only one trying to maintain order. No, Linda said softly, but with newfound strength, you're the one causing chaos. Karen froze. Linda stood, hands trembling but voice steady. We all want a nice community. But you've been using your position to harass people. To intimidate them. To control them. It has to stop. Greg nodded firmly. We're taking a vote. Karen looked frantically across the board. You wouldn't dare. But they would. And they did. One vote after another. Remove. 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 Karen staggered as though physically struck. You can't do this, she whispered. Greg stood. You are hereby removed as HOA president, effective immediately. Silence. Then applause, quiet at first, then swelling until the whole room vibrated with relief. Karen's face contorted, rage, humiliation, disbelief blending into something unstable. You'll regret this, she spat. All of you. Then she turned and stormed out, the clubhouse doors slamming so hard they echoed. The moment she left, the tension dissolved like fog in sunlight. Linda collapsed into a chair, exhaling shakily. I can't believe that actually happened. You did great, I told her. Greg nodded. We're going to need someone to help renegotiate the marina agreement. Officially. I smiled slightly. I'd be happy to. And don't worry, I'm not pulling anything from the neighborhood. Access stays. Rates stay. In fact, I'll even add a kayak launch area just for residents. Gasps of appreciation rippled around the room. Greg grinned. You're a good man, Dalton. I just want peace, I said. Without sirens. Laughter broke out. As the room relaxed into conversation, one thing became clear. Harborview Estates finally had its community back. And the HOA queen? Her reign was officially over.